How's it going? Andrew here, and welcome to The Creative Endeavor, the podcast bringing you inspiring stories from creative professionals from around the world. And in this episode, I'm talking to Bethany Vere, who's a young equine artist based in the United Kingdom. Now, Bethany does some exquisite colored pencil art, and I normally don't gravitate towards colored pencil at all, but she really can make colored pencil talk. I just love seeing her work on Instagram, and she seems to be not only creating amazing art, but she's also created a fantastic, thriving business, selling her animal portraits around the world. I wanted to hear about how she makes it work as a business, but also a little bit about her personal story and how she finds herself in the position she's in today. This was a great conversation. I really got a lot out of it, and I hope you will too. So without further ado, here's Bethany Vere in The Creative Endeavor. Well, Bethany Vere, welcome to the Creative Endeavor podcast. It is an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Why don't you just kick things off for us and tell us a little bit more about your art and your story and what has led you up to this point in your career that you find yourself in now?
Okay, well, firstly, thank you so much for having me. It's such a privilege to be asked to do something like this. So I have been a full-time artist for around about 4 years. I have been, well, for those of you who don't know my work already, I'm a coloured pencil artist. I specialise in equestrian portraiture and the sort of like the anatomy of the horse, getting sort of as close to realism as I possibly can with coloured pencil. So as I said, I've been doing this about 4 years, and it's been a complete roller coaster. And yeah, I don't even know really where to start. But I am completely self-taught. I didn't go to art school. I actually failed art at college, which is, I don't know if it's the same in New Zealand, but college isn't university over here. It's sort of like a mid-school. And they failed me because they wanted me to do a lot of abstract work, and I was just never really into that kind of stuff. So I stuck with my pencils and they weren't happy, and they basically failed me. And ever since then, like, I come from a very corporate background, and my parents are sort of working office, like an office environment. So for me to be an artist was just like, no, basically. So when I left school, I went into the motor trade, and I was working at like Citroen and Mercedes-Benz, and I loved it at the time, but it really wasn't a long-term career path. And then I went to university to study marketing and dropped out after a year and a half because I kind of realised that I'm really not academic. And in that time, I'd always ridden horses. I've always had such a passion for animals, and especially horses. So I kind of was always drawing them because my parents never let me have my own pony. So I'd just go out to like a yard or my friends' horses and sit there and basically just study them, really. And it kind of gave me a lot of inspiration to sort of draw, I guess, because I think growing up I was quite an anxious child, and especially going into my sort of later teenage years with the pressure of social media and things like that, I was struggling a lot with sort of like, not, I don't want to say finding yourself, but you know, the battles that you kind of struggle with as a sort of like a teenager. And art was such an escape. I was never really a party goer. I never really went clubbing or anything like that. I'd much rather spend a Saturday night drawing, and that's exactly what I did. And it kind of got to my, as I said, my second year of university. I was halfway through, and I really, really wasn't happy. And it got to Christmas, and I kind of said to my parents, like, uni isn't for me. It's a huge amount of money. It's a huge amount of debt. It's really not what I want to do. And they said, well, fine, but what else are you going to, like, what are you going to do, basically? And at the time, I sort of built up a relatively mediocre portfolio. If you look sort of at my previous really early work, it's like I sort of started in graphite and just experimenting with so many mediums like pastel, oils, but I always came back to pencil because I love the precision that you can get from a pencil. So yeah, I think they were like, and I remember my mum saying to me, you know, you're good, but it's a difficult journey, and I don't think you're really prepared for being an artist. And can you even make a career out of it? There's a lot of people out there doing this. Where would you even start? And I kind of went, well, I don't know, but I can take a year out of university that I can hold my place, and then you can come back if it doesn't work out. So I basically, in short, gave myself a year to try and get a portfolio together to try and make some money via art. And I had like a part-time job at the time. I was working in a pub, and yeah, as I said, I gave myself a year to basically get the business off the ground to some form, basically. And in that year, it was tough, really, really tough, because as I said, I wasn't sure whether I wanted to do oils or pastels or pencils or anything like that. And I spent a lot of money to get a lot of different sort of mediums and to just experiment. I spent so much time experimenting, but I then went on to start a Facebook page, because I started posting work on Facebook, and it got a bit of a sort of a response from friends and family, and they were like, oh, this is really good. Like, and then some of my friends that I had horses with, who I went and rode their horses, they say, oh, can you draw my horse for me? And I said, yeah, okay. So I went off and sort of started the drawing and did the artwork. And eventually I was like, okay, well, maybe I can charge like £20 or something. And so I started, and that's basically how I kind of started getting commissions. And I started a Facebook page, and I started putting work on Facebook, and I started getting a bigger following, very, very slowly, sort of like friends and their friends, and it kind of expanded locally to getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I think it was probably about a year and a half in when I completely slumped, and I made a bit of a mistake when I started the business. I went to a company to get some prints made of some equestrian work that I did, and basically got charged a stupid amount of money for the work. I was kind of lied to about the price because I think the company told me one price, and then when the invoice came, they'd added VAT on and things like that. But me being sort of first time business owner or startup business and 20 years old, I didn't have a clue about VAT and sort of add-on costs of things and things like that. And there was a lot of hidden prices and things like that. So yeah, it kind of got I lost quite a substantial amount of money through getting a lot of these prints made, and I was very naive to thinking that it's fine, I can just put them on Facebook and people are going to buy them, because people are very complimentary about my work. So eventually, if I put it online, someone might buy them. It didn't happen. I kind of launched everything. I'd spent a lot of money. I launched prints, nothing. So I went to this company and had a lot of prints made, and they basically sold me the dream. They told me that they could put me in touch with a lot of different people, and that what else did they tell me? They just, when you see a company and they just tell you, they tell you everything you want to hear. They kind of see you coming, basically. And I was so young at the time. As this was only 4 years ago, but I feel like it was such a long time ago. So yeah, I think he kind of was like, I can promise you this is going to happen, and if you work with me, and he said to me, don't release anything to the last minute. So I want you to do a collection of like 18 pieces of work. You're going to have a big portfolio. Yeah, 18 pieces of work. Big portfolio, we can get loads of prints made. And I was like, oh, okay, because I don't know anything about art, and you're a fine art printer, so you deal a lot with this. Yeah. And then there was a lot of hidden costs involved. He started adding on VAT to the prices that he initially told me, and me being really naive and being like a startup business, I didn't have a clue. And so I got slapped with all of these invoices, and I had no choice, I had to pay them. And thousands of pounds later, I was distraught. I was completely like devastated. It was like savings are gone, everything, and I felt like I'd wasted so much money. I didn't know whether this career was going to work, whether it even was a career, because after then I took my work. I approached a publisher, relatively local publisher to me, and I took this portfolio down there. I said, look, I've had all these prints made. Could you help me possibly sell them? Like, I don't really know how it works. And they went, no, basically, no, we don't like your work. And I was like, oh, okay. So it was just knock after knock after knock. And my parents were going, well, maybe go back to uni or go and get a proper job. And yeah, I was determined because I'm a bit stubborn, and I was like, no, I'm gonna make it work. I'm gonna try. I'm gonna give it, and I've got another 6 months before I need to be back at uni, or however long it was. I'm gonna try and nail this. So I took a bit of time off. As I said, I was working at the pub, so I didn't really have like the concern of being desperate for money. So I think I took about 2 months away from drawing full stop. I was demoralized. I just couldn't even pick up a pencil. And then after that, it was just after no, actually, I'd started seeing some people do work online, like on Instagram and stuff like that, on coloured pencil on black paper. And I thought, oh, that looks quite nice. I'm going to give that a go. So I started posting things like that onto Facebook, and I got commissions that way. And my people in America, I started getting people in America and overseas interested in commissions. And I was thinking, oh, maybe this is good, because like all the prints that I'd had done previously, like company, I'd put them onto Facebook and none of them had sold. Like I'd launched them, I'd done it, followed what this guy told me to a T, and I was kind of expecting, was I naively expecting? Maybe I was naively expecting that someone would come along and almost like feel sorry for me and just be like, oh, I know her, I'm going to buy a piece of her, I can support her because like we've been friends for years. It doesn't work like that, unfortunately, and I learned that the hard way. And I was so really, really naive. So as I said, none of the prints were sold. I was really demoralized. But luckily I found this coloured pencil on black paper, and I started doing some work and selling it to America, and just doing some little like original sketches, like white on black almost, and just making some money just to prove to people that I could do it. I could make money. That someone was interested in buying something that I had to produce. I produced. But that fell short pretty quickly because it was just a consistent turnover, like new piece of work every single day, sketch upon sketch upon sketch. And I was just like, well, this is tiring. I can't do this. This isn't sustainable, basically. So I think that was when I took a bit of time out, and it was during the summer, and I watched the Rio Olympics. And I've always, as I said, loved horses, been fascinated by dressage. And I watched Charlotte Dujardin and Vallegro compete, and I fell in love with, like, I followed Vallegro and Charlotte to a degree, but nothing that, not that strongly. But I watched the Olympics and fell completely in love with the horse. And then I found some photography online. I messaged the photographer and I said, look, I don't think anything's going to like come of it, basically, but could I just use your photography as a reference for a piece of artwork that I want to do? And he very kindly said yes. So by which time I'd done some research into pencils and paper that other people were using that I was really inspired by online, and on Instagram and things like that. And I was like, right, okay, I'm gonna nail this piece. I'm gonna take time over it. I'm gonna really sort of like just experiment and see how well I can do a drawing, basically. And I got halfway through doing this drawing of Charlotte and Vallegro, and I decided that I was going to bite the bullet and put it online and put it on Facebook and just put it on there and just see what happened, like just see what response it got, basically, because as I said, I've been quiet for several months and I was really nervous. I used to get so nervous about putting my work, like pressing the publish button online was so scary, because you're opening yourself up to like criticism, to people like judging you. It was like scary.
It's terrifying doing that. It's terrifying.
Yeah, it's horrible. But I did, and I think 24 hours later, or a day or so later, I was sat in my room like watching Netflix or something, not thinking about work, not thinking about business, not thinking about anything. And my phone messaged, sort of pinged, and I had a message from my Facebook page, and it says Charlotte Dujardin has sent you a message, and I was like, this Olympic gold medalist apparently has sent me a message, and I was a bit like, I don't believe that. Wow. I don't believe you're real. But I opened the message, and she basically said, hi, Bethany. I've just seen that you're drawing Vallegro. I absolutely love it. And I was like, oh my God. I ran around the house. So Sunday night, about 9 o'clock at night, running around the house, like screaming, being like, my idol's just messaged me, like, what on earth? And then in her next message, so I obviously replied, and between me and my parents, we sort of drafted out a very careful message, being like, thank you so much, I'm so glad you like it and all of this. And then she messaged me back and she said, would you like to, when the drawing's finished, would you like to come and meet us at our yard? And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I was like, fangirl moment, absolute fangirl moment. So yeah, and I kind of, this is, I think about 3 years it's been now, and I've worked with her, the Team GB dressage team, and I've recently got a Dominican Republic Olympian. I'm doing some work for Germany, and I'm also doing some work from Australia as well. And that's sort of like, there's so much that has happened in ever since I started working with Charlotte, like the opportunities and things like that. And I'm so very, very grateful for her support. But it shows that things like can happen from Facebook, which is incredible. But yeah, I think that's basically how I got started. And I genuinely think, as I said, I'm very, very fortunate to have a push from someone like that. But I truly believe that if you want something enough, you'll make it work. You really will make it work.
That is such an inspiring story. I think there's a lot of people out there that build up this idea of being an artist and being a professional and walking the creative path. They build this up as a fantasy in their mind, thinking about how wonderful it's going to be. And it does have its wonderful moments, but what you're saying there is there's a lot of heartache and a lot of having the door slammed in your face and hearing no a lot of times. And what you've done through that barrage of negative feedback and circumstances is you stuck to your guns and you kept going. You kept the dream and the vision alive. And sometimes, I don't know, I don't want to get too woo-woo this early in the podcast, but sometimes I feel like life, even, the universe, to use that common expression now, it's almost a conscious thing. It's pushing back against you as hard as you're pushing the thing. And it's just waiting to see, how bad do you really want this? And that's just so ridiculously inspiring, Bethany, to hear that, you got that feedback, but from the person that it mattered most.
Yeah,
how
absolutely.
cool is that? That's amazing.
It was incredible. It was an absolutely incredible experience, and to sort of like the work, as I said, that I've picked up from that, it's been insane as well. The opportunities that I've been given is mental. But I mean, just because there was a lot of heartache at the start, basically, but also even when you do get your dream clients, almost, there's still a lot of problems that come with not necessarily those clients, but other people. There's still so many rejections. There's still you get approached by, like, for me, for example, I use a local framer who are supplied by a lot of the bigger publishers in the UK. And one of the biggest publishers in the UK went into that framers and they saw my artwork. They saw I did a piece of 6 hunting hounds, and they saw it. They had put some framers at a print down there, and they said, "Oh, who's done that? We really like it." And then they emailed me and said, "Do you want to come up to Birmingham," which is about a 3-hour drive from me, and have a meeting with the board, and we'll see whether we can get you into a couple of our galleries. And they've got some of the biggest galleries in the cities in the UK. And I was like, oh, what an opportunity! This is amazing! Like, I'm going for leaps.
Wow.
So I took my portfolio up there and took a lot of framed work, and I had a meeting with them, and they basically turned around and said, yeah, we really like what you do. We really like what you do. However, you're very much a commission artist, aren't you? And I kind of went, yeah. And they went, you're not a commercial artist. We want commercial artists. So we kind of want you to learn to paint. We want you to put backgrounds on things. We want you to like smudge everything out a bit. And I went, well, that's not what I do. That is, and they said, well, go away, have a bit of a think, maybe like take some time out, build another portfolio. And so I did, because obviously getting approached by a big publisher in the UK was a huge deal. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to listen to them because they clearly know what they're talking about with art. And I went and spent another like 2 months in between things, built another portfolio and just tried. And I sent them piece after piece after piece, and I rejected every single one of them. And I went, do you know what? You can't change me then. Like if I've tried, and then I remember speaking to a lot of people, and they said, like, why are you trying to change? Like, you've built an audience, you've got a client base, like, just because one publisher, and you like, do you really want to be a gallery artist? And I kind of said, no, I love working with the clients I work with the dressage team. That's me through and through. So yeah, I mean, it's been a lot of sort of like roller coasters, but overall, I think, yeah, I'm sat here in my room, in sort of my studio room, with all my pencils around me and sort of like just all my equipment. I think, oh, I'm so lucky, yeah, to be able to be here and to be, yeah, even to be asked to be on your podcast and things like that. It's just incredible.
Yeah. No, don't put this up there as a highlight. But look,
it definitely is. It definitely is.
The pleasure is mine, I assure you. You know, it's interesting hearing that, because I can relate to so many aspects of that story. And again, there's a lot of common threads that come through for so many people in their careers, you know, from doing the printing and thinking that this is going to be some sort of easy thing, and then falling into a trap. I've fallen into that trap a couple of times now. And then to even have people try and exert their creative control on what you do. But coming full circle now, looking at what you do now and your business the way it looks now, it's incredible. Now, again, I know I'm on the outside looking in, but you're now producing this steady flow of work that is exceptionally well executed. It is so like polished and pristine, just precise, and your technique is unreal. So could you, before we do a deeper dive into the business side of things, of how you make it work as an artist, could you tell us a little bit more about your process? Now, I must admit, I will say from the outset, personally, not a fan of colored pencil, but you make colored pencils talk. The way you do it, because at first I looked at them and went, those are nice paintings. Like, that is an incredible painting. How did she do? What's her technique? I'm like, colored pencil? No, get out of here, really? And but you make that medium work for you. And I think it's up to the artist, every artist, to find the material and the medium that works for them, so that they can express themselves in the way they see fit. You found that. So could you talk us through your process a little bit more?
Yeah, sure. Well, as I said at the start, like I kind of went through coloured pencils and pastels and oils, and I kind of realised very quickly that oils are messy and I don't like them. They smell and things like that. So, and pastels are really messy as well. But I mean, it's incredible because I see such beautiful work done by so many different mediums. But I always, as I say, come back to coloured pencil, because I mean, I can't sharpen a pastel pencil like I can sharpen one of my pencils, because the leads are so much harder. So when it comes to the process, I mean, the way, because I have quite a few people message me and say, you know, how do you do what you do, and you know, what's your advice and techniques? And I just say patience and layering. Just layer, get a thick. I use a hot press watercolor paper, and it's the heaviest weight I can get, and it's the heaviest weight I can buy, and it's not this, I don't even know how you describe it. It's heavy, and I can put so many layers in. But I think, I mean, I'm quite heavy-handed, I think, anyway, and I think even now, I mean, I don't know whether anyone will know, but I'm currently working on Charlotte's Tokyo 2020 Olympic mare, mountain jump freestyle. And which is an incredible, like, to be doing a piece like that.
Amazing. Cool.
And it's so intense. It's so many hours. I think that's one of the things with color pencil, is that it takes so long. I mean, I've been working on this piece on and off for approximately a month now. I've done a trade show in between then, and I've also done some commission work, but it's been over a month now, and it's fine. I'm about 3 days away from finishing it, but that's, you know, it's only about, I think it's about, the paper I buy is like 24 inches by 28 inches. And I think that's one of the reasons why publishers and galleries aren't interested in people that do colour pencil, because it takes so long. It takes so long to cover an area, to build up the layers, to get sort of the depth to everything. Because in my mind, what makes art realistic isn't really your skill or the detail, although it helps. It's your values, and you know, your darks have got to be dark and your lights have got to be light, and that
That's
creates
right.
a highlight and creates the illusion that you're sort of making something as 3D as you can possibly make it on a flat surface.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm really fortunate that I've kind of learned over the years how to lay a pencil in such a way that I can create. I know when to go heavy on a dark area, and I know when to sort of be very gentle. But one of the things like that I think a lot of people struggle with colored pencil is that when you do lay it, it can look quite muddy sometimes. So you've got to kind of get a feel for what pencils work well together, what colours will layer on top of each other well. But that takes time and experimenting and a lot of patience. And I think that's one of the things with coloured pencil is like it's so precise that, and you can make mistakes, but it's not easy to correct them. Whereas with paint I know not watercolors, because obviously it's very difficult to lighten up a watercolor. But especially with oils and stuff like that, if you go dark, you can lighten it. Same with acrylic and same with pastel. But with pencils, you're working highlights backwards almost. So you plot out where your highlights are, and then you go into your shadows and you sort of work at your midtones. It's really crazy because I don't really think about my work as art. So when I talk to you about midtones and shadows and tones and values and things like that, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I don't really know what I'm talking about. I just draw a horse. Do you know? And I think that's what's, I mean, hopefully I've kind of explained it a little bit. I mean, I just definitely kind of I'm pointing down here because my freestyle is down here, and I'm thinking, oh yeah, well, just go really ham on some bits and really heavy, and then really light and sort of gentle to where you need the highlights.
Well, I think that's extraordinary. I mean, I can certainly see that it would be a very unforgiving medium, but again, you make it work for you. And that's the main thing. And now you've got something that is a business that is definitely working for you, which is incredible. Again, so maybe could you talk to us about that, because I find that so interesting. You know, you receive that criticism from those people that were saying, okay, well, you're a commission-based artist. You're somebody that produces something that, you know, people want to buy as a finished work of art. You're not somebody that we can mold and fit into our little, paradigm. So, you be somebody else. But now that you've found your artistic voice, so to speak, or a niche, how does it work for you as a business? Is this merely just a question of just, you put something online and somebody bites, just almost like fishing. You put your hook in the water and somebody comes along and bites, and then it becomes down to sheer volume, and that increases your chances? Because I'm gonna just say from the outset, I suspect not, because, and I will just say this, one of the things that I'm so impressed with you is, when looking at your website, you seem to have mastered both the personal interfacing with the client and being there with them and working with them directly, as well as having this online thing working. So as a business, could you just give us a snapshot for how this kind of works?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think for me, it's 50-50 between online sales and, I mean, about 99% of my commissioned work comes from social media. Well, not just from social media, but the website and things like that. But a lot of people would be recommended through Facebook. So I think for the commission stuff, I mean, it is very much, it's not the same as, obviously it's not the same as prints, but so prints, you are kind of fishing. You create a piece of artwork like to add to your portfolio that you kind of hope that people are going to bite and kind of buy, and it doesn't really work like that. Like over the past about 2 years, Facebook, in my opinion, has gone dramatically down in terms of they want you to pay more to advertise, to sort of reach. I mean, I'm very fortunate. I've got quite a large following on, not massive, but a relatively good following on Facebook. But for like all of those people who follow me to see the work, Facebook wants me to pay them, and I'm like, no, that's not what I expected. Whereas years ago, when I first started the business, I could put a piece of work online and it would get a much bigger reach than what it gets now. So, and print sales back then 2 years ago were fantastic. Now, not so good. And I think it's difficult because I very much love the horses and I very much love doing the equestrian work over things like the wildlife and other stuff that I've done in the past. But you kind of got to go, well, okay, well, the wildlife sells to people on Facebook, it sells for prints, but it's a difficult balance to get between commissions and prints. I'm very, very fortunate that I do have a very, very steady workload of commissions. If anything, it's very, very busy, which is brilliant. I'm so fortunate to be in the position where I can say that commission work is thriving, and I am very lucky that, as you said, I get to meet some, if not quite a few, of my clients, but the majority of them are local, and I take pride in building that rapport with the people that commission me, because it's not just, oh, can you draw my pony? Yeah, sure, send me a photo, give me the money, then I'll do the work, or such and such like that. It's very much like we have a very good I try and build a bigger and a stronger rapport as I possibly can with them, in terms of even from the initial sort of emails to sort of helping them get the right photography for the work, showing them sort of what examples bad photography compared to good photography, and the process through the work to the packaging. I try and take pride in, obviously, the packaging. It's all tissue wrapped, it's all ribboned, it's all sort of handwritten. It's it's a huge amount of work that goes into behind the scenes of being an artist as well. But I think for me, for example, I get so many compliments on packaging and the way that I build the rapport with the customers, whereas you don't kind of get that through prints. But then again, prints to me are like, I guess, like pocket money at the end of the day. You kind of get a print sale and you're like, oh, excellent, okay, well, that's afforded me to do X, Y, and Z. And I know that's talking purely on a monetary level, but I think that is the difference. Like, I'm very, very fortunate, as I said, that I've built a very good relationship with a lot of my commissioned clients, and they are the people who, at the end of the day, they're buying a piece of art which they don't have to have, and it's a luxury item, and you kind of want them to feel like they are investing well with their money, because it's not a lot. It's not a little amount of money that they are spending. It's depending on the size, it can be quite a considerable amount, and you kind of want to make sure that you're building that rapport, because even if it takes you the time that you don't necessarily have, and you're thinking, oh, maybe I'm losing a bit of money here, the relationship that you build with those customers are invaluable, because they will talk and publicity, and it gets you further and further and further. And it's the same with print sales. I mean, you may get a print sale and everything's gift wrapped and everything is like properly done, and thank you notes are written, and it takes time. But the amount of compliments, the amount of thank you emails I get, the amount of thank you cards is just phenomenal. And yeah, I think as I said, very, very fortunate to be able to work on a personal level with some clients, but also to build a relationship with the people who buy my prints and stuff from Instagram, because Instagram, as you're probably aware, like, Instagram's overtaken Facebook now, to be honest, especially in my opinion. I mean, I'm much more prolific on Instagram than I am on any other platform, but difficult.
Me too.
Because
yeah, absolutely.
I could talk about this for ages, because I genuinely don't really like social media at all. I think it can be a real problem, but then again, without social media, I wouldn't have a business. And I strongly can say that I have only got where I am through social media.
That's interesting. I do want to go back to that and talk more about social media, because We might be very similar there in that respect, because I do have some massive reservations about it, and I think it does things to us personally. With the enormous gift that it brings, it also takes so much away. And it's important to maintain and retain some sort of element of ourselves, which we can lose so easily through these platforms. I do want to go back and just pick up on something that you said and just echo that, maybe drive that point home for people that might be listening, because this is something that I've stumbled upon in recent years. And the thing that I think you do, exceptionally well is, once you have a customer, once you have somebody that has parted with their hard-earned money to own a piece of your art, which they didn't have to have, and as you say, it's a luxury item. Once they've done that, taking care of them in such a way that encourages them to come back is absolutely essential. I heard something recently, which is, we're not in the selling business, we're in the reselling business. And I didn't really understand that until I had looked at my own numbers within my business. Now, my father, I was very, very fortunate. My father trained me a lot, when I was very young, and it even helped me get set up as a professional. And people might remember him from episode 11 of the podcast. But the thing that my father was telling me was, once you have somebody on the line, once somebody's bought, the chances are they're going to buy again. You got to take care of them. And you got to be grateful for them, and you got to treat them in such a way that encourages them to come back. But it can't be fake. It can't be done in such a way that I'm doing this for you because I'm expecting something back. You have to be pouring out this genuine expression of gratitude. What ended up happening for me is that classic, Pareto's principle, the 80-20 rule, where 80% of the people that were buying at any given time already had a piece of work. 20% of the clients were new, but the majority of that 20% knew somebody who already had something. So it has this kind of this cross-feeding, spreading out effect, where it really does become, word of mouth business. That was a way that I found, when interfacing with people on a personal level, that became so much more successful for me once I got out of the gallery. Except I will say, the exception being, I had one gallery that I worked with directly, very closely, and I got to meet everybody. And then it just became a transaction where these people were friends of mine, and we became very close. And I just said, look, you guys handle the business side of things. I'm happy to pay the commission, which was very reasonable, just so I can keep painting. But, being in a position where you can build that trust and rapport with your clients, absolutely essential. So I just wanted to flag that, because this is something that I see you're doing so well. I mean, there's a photograph on your website of the beautiful wrapping and the presentation of this product. It's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's something I try and take pride in, because I do think that things leave a lasting impression, especially things like in this day and age. As I said, art is a luxury item, and you want people to think that it is definitely a luxury item. And it's not. I'm very, very grateful to everyone who does buy something, but not only buy something, but comments and follows, and is supportive of the work, because arguably without them, we wouldn't be where we are. Because I think, but the difficulty is that without having a gallery presence, or without being a published artist, you do rely heavily on people through social media, which is, I think, where I'm going to come on to now with some of the problems. Is that, I can sometimes get into a very difficult mindset with it, that I kind of feel like I've got to be producing artwork every single day, whether I like it or not. Now, I'm very fortunate. I don't really feel like I don't ever have an off day from art. I always want to draw. There's never a day where I think I really, really can't face drawing today, because and I think I get a lot of people that say, how do you stay so motivated? When I do little Q&As on Instagram, people say, how do you stay so motivated? And I'm like, oh, it's you guys. You motivate me, because you're incredible, and you give me so much love, and you give me so much support. And I get so many messages on a daily basis about the work, and I think, oh my word, and I think it's only when you kind of sit there and you think, I'm actually producing something that people like and people want. And I think that's a bit mind-blowing, because 4 years ago my name was completely, well, still is relatively unknown. And a funny story there, actually. I went to I recently got asked to be at a local county show with my work, which is a huge honour, and it was an incredible experience. But they had a local publisher there, which was actually the very first publisher that I approached years ago, who rejected me, but it's a different guy. And he came and had a chat with me, and he had a chat about my work and the way that I'd done things. And he basically said, "Oh, you're charging too much money considering you're a completely unknown artist." And I was a bit like, oh, well, I'm unknown to you doesn't mean I'm unknown to the thousands of people that follow my work who buy it regularly. So just because you haven't seen it doesn't mean I'm completely unknown. So thank you very much and see you later. But it's one of those interesting situations that I think, like, oh, you can take one little knock to me and it ruined my day. I'm not gonna lie, that ruined my day, because I was thinking, oh, well, he's the publisher, he thinks it's good, but he wouldn't like have it in his house. And I'm like, oh, okay. But I think that's because he was another person who was like, oh, I think you should learn to paint in oils because it's so much quicker, and like, who really wants to spend the time to, no one's going to buy work done by colored pencil because it takes so long. And I've proved him wrong. I'm trying to prove him wrong every single day, trying to prove him wrong. But yeah, coming back to what I sort of initially started saying was, like, I think this is the problem with social media, is that because I'm a bit addicted to it. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. And I'm so embarrassed to say that I'm slightly addicted to social media, but I actually am, because it's, you read or you listen to people who say, oh, young people are addicted to their phones. Well, I'm absolutely addicted to Instagram. That's really embarrassing to say.
Yeah,
but
don't be embarrassed, but I totally relate. Yeah.
It's awful, and it's like, I try and put a new thing up every single day because I'm like, oh, well, my Instagram's grown like 2,000 last week. I'm like, excellent, but I need to keep that going. I need to keep that momentum. You need to keep, and you can't just put anything up there. You've got to make it really, really good content. So you're consistently like I will let myself like not go to the gym for a week just so I can make sure that I've got consistent Instagram posts. And that is awful to say, but it's What is your thoughts on that? Because how you're relating.
No, it's a quagmire. It is something that is really difficult to navigate nowadays, because I don't think we've never had this in the history of the world. And human beings and our physiology and the way our brain is set up, I don't think we're prepared to mentally, physically handle what social media gives us, and it gives us as creators. And we'll speak specifically about creators here. My feeling is that what social media does is a bit like what sales do. It's immediate feedback from an external source. And the minute you get that feedback from something that's external, you're no longer paying attention to what is internal. And the driving force behind every artist, in my opinion, should always be what's internal, should be scratching the creative itch for you. I'm trying now, and again, I totally relate to what you're saying, because as much as I say that, I do find myself addicted to the phone and wanting to check who's liked, who's commented, got to get back to this person, got to make sure I don't leave them hanging. Now I'm trying to get in the habit of post and drop the phone, just put it away. I'll come back when it's my scheduled time to come back. My thinking there is, I'm not being rude, I'm not being mean. I love each and every one of my followers and subscribers. I'm totally grateful to them. And they also, a large portion of those people make my life possible. They actually really make my life possible. They keep the lights on, the pot boiling, and the heaters on, and they keep the rent paid and help me do what I do. And through that, I'm also trying to provide my service and help teach people how to paint as well as sell paintings. So it's difficult. I don't want to be ungrateful to them, but at the same time, I think at the end of the day, the true fans want to know that you are 100%. And your tank is full enough to the point of being overflowing, that you must go and do that thing that is the reason they're following you in the first place. So I'm now going to be using, instead of being used by social media, I'm going to use it.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to turn it around, because the people, the directors at Facebook, And there was a director that came out, and again, I forget his name. I did speak about this on the podcast earlier in another episode. But the director came out, and they were admitting, yeah, we made it addictive. The color was a marketing decision based on what people responded to most. The sound of the pop or the ding or the bell or whatever it is, the way the notification appears, it's like, oh, you got a message, you got a message, you got a message. Oh, pay attention, pay attention, pay attention. And dopamine, dopamine, dopamine.
Yeah.
And no wonder we're hooked on it. And so the only way that I could kind of get around that was to just basically go to war with it and just go, no, I'm not giving in at all. So this is a position I find myself in now, post and drop, come back during my scheduled time to answer people on Instagram, which is normally in the evening, right before I go to bed. If other people that are listening to this are finding that they have the difficulty of putting it out there, try and keep this at arm's length. Try and do this in such a way where you're using it and it's not using you. Make a post, drop the phone, get on with your work, come back at a scheduled time, answer your comments, respond to your messages, make another post, drop the phone again. That's the only way I think that it could, because I think nowadays as an artist, through diversification, trying to make a living through different mediums, we have to. We need the internet. We need social media platforms to be able to make this work. So there's no sense in not using it. Just use it responsibly.
The reason why that people, so many people strive for realism now is because people will scroll through on social media, and if they see something completely abstract, they're not going to stop. If they see something real, they're going to go, oh my God, is that drawing? And then they'll follow. And I think that is the difficulty, that compared to like before social media came out, there was a lot more, I think, maybe I don't really follow it that closely, but like more abstract painters, more sort of just people that are doing a lot looser work compared to the intense realism that is on Instagram and on social media now. And I strongly just think that is because it's just seen as the thing it's a craze. Compared to, when I first started, relatively short time ago, as I said, 4 years ago, there's so many more people that are doing exactly what I do now. And I'm all for it, because I'm just like, oh, I always say, so recently, about a couple of months ago, I did start a YouTube channel. I did a few videos and kind of realized that it took way too much time, and I kind of just gone, that can wait. I can do that some other time. That it's very difficult to, I don't know, put very abstract work, but I do like online because it's such an unknown. But I think for me, one thing that I did say to people who watched those videos and followed what I was talking about on there, I just said there is an audience out there for everyone. If someone wants to do realism, you crack on and you do that, because even though realism is meant to be realistic, there's so many different forms and so many different styles of that realism that and there's so many different price brackets. You've got people who will buy your work if you're charging £20, £30 for a little for like a study. There's people that would charge like £2,000-3,000 or £20,000 or £30,000. There is an audience for absolutely everyone, no matter where you are in the journey or on your creative business journey. There is a market for absolutely everyone, and I think that was one thing that I really wanted to sort of hone in on and try and, because I do have a lot of people that say, oh, I'm just starting out and I don't know how much I should charge, and I'm like, I've been doing this 4 years and I still don't know how much to charge. But I think there is an audience there for everyone.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, absolutely. I think there's room for everyone, and this is one of the reasons I don't like competition or thinking about it as competition. I'm in two minds about that, because I might sound like I'm contradicting myself. There is competition in terms of when you're marketing your original work and you're competing for people's attention, on the private sales market. Are they going to spend that amount of money on my painting, or are they going to buy somebody else's? Fortunately for me, I only need 25 people a year to make the decision to buy one of my pieces, and there's certainly more than enough to go around. You're still putting yourself out there online, despite all the pitfalls with social media, despite all of that, you're still using this as a medium to reach people. But you've been doing some things recently where you're actually reaching out on a much more personal level and actually interacting with people live. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I mean, I think it was about 3 or 4 months ago, I decided to bite the bullet and to start a YouTube channel. I had so many people requesting videos, whether it was time lapses or just Q&As and things like that. Um, and I was like, oh, okay, well, about 2 years ago, I went and bought this vlogging camera, and it's sat in its box ever since because I was so scared. Because it's one thing. I mean, you can completely hide behind your work to a certain degree on social media. Like no one really has to know you. And then my parents kind of said to me, well, maybe it'd be a good idea to try and eventually do the videos because then people can buy into you as a person, and it creates because it's one of those things. I mean, for me, when I do like a trade show or a show of any description, your personality sells you as much as your artwork, I think, anyway. And a lot of people don't understand that and they don't get that on Instagram or Facebook. So I thought, right, okay, I'm going to start a YouTube channel. So I sent my family out for the day. I still live at home, so I sent my parents, my brother out, and I said, look, I'm going to film a video. Can you just disappear for a bit because I'm probably going to absolutely mess it up. So I'm just going to, just need a very, very silent house. So what did I do? I went onto Instagram and I asked a load of questions. I said, well, ask me, put on one of those little Q&A sticker things on your story. And I said, look, can people just ask me whatever they want to know? And I'll sit down and I'll film a YouTube video. And I had some amazing questions. And so I just screenshot them and sat them down. And I had this camera in front of me. It was a Sunday morning. I had this camera in front of me. I kind of was staring at it going, I have no idea what I'm going to say to you, and I've got no idea whether I'm going to come across coherent or, I haven't had to talk to anyone in years about not really about, on this much of a personal level, because it's one thing, as I said, hiding behind your artwork, and it's another thing putting yourself, your personality, and who you are out on film. And yeah, I think I just had to think in my head, there's edit, and you can edit the bits you don't like. And some of the questions on there were quite, I can't remember off the top of my head what they were, but some of them were on more of a personal level, really, about sort of like not only how did you start obviously the business, but like how do you cope with the pressure of social media, and how do you sort of balance multiple platforms? Because I mean, one of the reasons why I started really, really getting into drawing like I did was after all those sort of fallouts that we've spoken about previously. I kind of started suffering quite badly from anxiety, and I knew that I wasn't very good at going into an office or doing a normal job. So I was like, right, okay, I've got to make this artwork work for me. And from having quite an anxious mind and thinking, oh God, what if no one likes it or not? No one likes it. Obviously, you sit in front of a camera, you think, I could lose people, I could lose a following, like I could lose. What if no one watches it? But I answered the videos and I had a bit of a laugh at myself, and I kind of was like trying to laugh my way through this video. And I think the first cut that I took was probably I was talking at the camera for about well over an hour. And I remember sitting there, stitching it all up together and editing it and thinking, oh, yeah, that was actually okay. I didn't mess it up as much as I thought. And it was interesting actually, because the amount of comments that I get on social media on those YouTube videos was, wow, I love how open and honest you were about sort of whether it's a review of some of the brands I not work with, but some of the brands I use for my artwork, or how you cope with feeling like an anxious day, or what do you do when you're feeling not 100%, how do you keep motivated, I found it quite refreshing, and I was a bit like, oh well, people are actually interested, they're not judging me for feeling like this, in fact they feel it too, and we can talk about this. And I kind of said in that video, I was like, I want to be an open space for people to talk about mental health, because it's something that's really prevalent now, and I don't want to be just like sat behind my artwork and feel like people can't approach me and ask me questions. And yeah, it might take me about a week to get back to you sometimes, because I'm terrible with like replying to people sometimes, but I wanted them to like feel that they could relate, and it wasn't just a polished piece of artwork that they were seeing. There was actually like a person behind it who had the same struggles that they were facing on a personal level. And then, so I remember filming this video and I pressed publish, and people were so supportive. And I put like a little minute clip on my Instagram being like, I am so nervous and all of this. And then I put on my story. I spoke on my story for the first time ever, and I've had Instagram for like 4 years. And people are like, well, we're really grateful that you were that open and honest and you shared your experiences. And I think, that is one of the benefits of having social media.
That is brilliant. And again, I can totally relate to that. Absolutely. I think there is a huge stigma around that these days. A lot of people are out there kind of suffering in silence in a way. And I think social media is one of those things. I mean, it seems we're talking about this so much. I mean, social media is one of those things that exacerbates the problem. It doesn't really help if you've already got that streak in you. And again, I do exactly like you. I have that streak, totally anxious person. And people, I don't think, after about 4 years now, coming up on nearly 4 years of being in front of that camera, it still takes me 45 minutes to get 5 minutes of content.
Really?
It takes me a long time. Most of it ends up on the editing floor. And people then comment, they're like, wow, your videos, they help, they're great, they're so well polished, you're such a good communicator. Check out all of the rushes first before you say that, because most of it just doesn't make it into the cut. Again, there's power in the edit. But there might be some people out there listening going, all right, guys, well, this is a bit rich. Your social media following is pretty vast compared to most people. And here you are, complaining about how hard it is. I think that a lot of people, most people are cool, but a lot of people do forget you're a real person. You're a real person, and you go through real things, and you're just like them. And I think that's important, that we realize that we're all in this together. And, good on you. I think it's incredibly brave to step in front of that camera and face those demons, because they're reflected right back at you in that little circular mirror-like polish in the lens. It's staring right back at you. You're going, I'm not cut out for this. And everything starts flooding back to you in that moment. But it's important to show up, because it's the people, for me, I'll tell you what it is for me that keeps me going, a bit like you. For me, it's the people that email that say, I have not picked up the brushes in 45 years. I saw one of your videos and now I'm painting again.
Yeah. I mean, it's something that I think a lot of people struggle with. And as what I said, social media and Instagram is such a demon, but then again, it's such an open platform where people can communicate and share their battles, and it should be seen as that. And people should, have an open space to be able to talk about, whether it's battles in art, whether it's personal battles. If they're going through a hardship, and they find artwork, because that's what artwork was for me. It was just like an escapism, and it kind of just rolled and rolled and rolled, and I kind of just luckily, fortunately, just started growing. And I know I had a very fortunate break, and I've had some very, very, as I said, very fortunate opportunities. But at the end of the day, you're still someone who sat at home in a studio on your own 90% of every day with just yourself and your thoughts, and it can be hard.
That's a really interesting one, isn't it? Because that's one that I personally was not prepared for. But I hear from so many other people out there going, do you get lonely? I'm like, oh, yeah, I do. Yeah, I really do. Because it's been me in a room by myself for over a decade. Do you know what that does to a person? It's not quite solitary confinement, but you are in your head for a long periods of time during the day where you won't speak to anybody. And so, there's a friend of mine, a really dear friend of mine. I miss him terribly, but his name was Matt Doust. And he was a famous artist from Perth in Western Australia, who's unfortunately no longer with us. But I remember Matt, so fondly. And I remember this time I went to go and see him at his studio. And he had this sign on the back wall of his studio, because I think he was going through this as well. and it said, "Art is lonely. Get used to it." I'm like,
Yeah.
word, brother, word. Like
Yeah.
that is, and it's something that I've always struggled with. But how do you, Bethany, kind of, did you find that you went through a transition period where you kind of announced to the world, "Oh yeah, I'm going to be an artist"? Did you find you had people kind of drop out of your life? I mean, in addition to the challenges, how did this affect you on a personal level by going into something that was a solitary occupation?
Um, I think because as I said, when I was at school, well, when I was in the workplace, as I said, I was obviously working in the motor trade in a corporate environment, and going to uni, you're with friends every single day, just like when you're at school. But I was almost like I struggled massively at school. I was quite I guess seen as like the crazy horse girl because there is one at every single school, and I think I was probably that person. Um, and I was quite isolated, and I always really struggled with socializing on that kind of level. And as I said, like way back when we first started talking, it was just like it was difficult to when all my friends were like, "Oh, do you want to go to the pub for the weekend?" And I'll be like, "No, not really." Or do you want to come to a party? No, not really. And it's hard because you do lose friends, you do lose people, and people think, "Oh, you're not cool," so you just want to sit at home and draw. But I tell you what, the people that have left my life, I've made up some, like the people who have come into my life through doing the artwork and through, as I said, one of my best friends was a photographer, working with the team GB up in Gloucester. You meet so many people, and I'll tell you one of the biggest things for me that changes and it keeps me going as much as my social media following does, is that I've only done two big events, and one of them was a horse show called Your Horse Live, which is up north from me, and it happens every November. It was my first trade stand I've ever done, and I had a little 3 meter by 3 meter, and it was back in 2017, and I spent about 3 months prepping for this because I had there was secrets, like not secrets, there was stuff going on in the background too, which is like part of the reason I was there. Um, so I had a lot of prep work that I had to do for this, and it was a huge amount of graft. It was a huge amount of work, and it was very nerve-wracking because it was again another massive expense. You didn't know whether it was going to pay off. And I remember setting up and thinking, oh my God, have I done the right thing? Like, who's going to come and see me? I've put it all over social media. Like, people, I was just scared basically. And I woke up the first day of the event. I got to the event, and I think I'd been there about 45 minutes, and I had two people, "Oh, we follow you on social media. We love what you do." And that just continued. And, people from there had, they kept coming and talking and just took such an interest, and would then message me saying, "Oh, it's lovely to meet you today at Your Horse Live," or "Lovely to meet you." And they make up for the loneliness, like the hours of graft that goes in when you're sat on your own doing the work, and then you take your work out publicly. Like for me, I get such a high out of it. And I mean, you kind of forget the high because I did, as I said, this trade event in 2017, and then I didn't do another big one until beginning of this month. And I was in the county show that I've just done. I was in the judges and stewards area, so I was very very restricted to the fitfall in there. But I got to meet sort of the chairman, the vice chairman of the show, and they were incredibly kind, incredibly generous. They sort of had added me on Facebook, messaged me afterwards saying it was lovely to have you there. We hope you enjoyed it. And it was just the connections that you make through putting your work out there and putting yourself out there. You just can't compare it to to the friends that you lose at school because you think, well, you're not meant to be in my life. If you're gonna run away at the first hurdle, then who are you, and do I really want you in my life? Well, no, I probably don't.
I can relate to that again, 100%. Where there would be the party going on, or would you come to the bar, or and I did do that for a period of time in my early 20s. The partying, the drinking, and the carrying on. And then as you shed these people out of your life, and it's hard to. it's hard to, I heard this said once, I heard Kyle Cease say this. Kyle Cease is a comedian, and he's a bit one of these kind of motivator, inspirational dudes. And he said, you can always measure what you're going to lose, but you can never measure what you're going to gain, which means you can quantify. Yeah, you can quantify in that moment, I'm going to lose this person. Well, that means I lose the bar, the parties, something to do when I'm bored. And that feels like a genuine loss. But what you can't anticipate, and what you just have no idea what's around the corner of what's coming in. And one of the things that we know just from life is that nature abhors a vacuum. It just will not tolerate a vacuum. There will always be something that comes in and fills an empty space. So if you create those empty spaces within your life, and you raise your standards when you do that, then something else has got to come in and fill that. And what happens for me is that those people have been replaced with genuine people.
Yes, absolutely. You know? And I kind of think like that. Some of the people that when I was out sort of drinking and sort of being a youth, and I think, you know, they're probably very happy, and I'm very, very happy for them that, you know, but I don't know, I think it takes someone. I think for me, if I think about my friendship group now, we are all self-employed, we're all pretty creative, and we're all stupidly ambitious. Like, we set our goals up here, and I think most people who I left behind, it sounds bad, but they're still way down here.
No, I get it. No, you're right. I mean, it's those people, and it's the people that maybe didn't have an intention or set a goal for their life. Normally, those two of those people can't be in the same room at the same time. Somebody with ambition and somebody without. It doesn't work, because you're just like, okay, next. But while we're on that subject, because I'm a big time goal setter, and I love goals. I write them down. I schedule them. I commit action daily to achieving them. Tell me about, you know, some of your goals, if you feel comfortable sharing with us an example of a goal, and maybe like you set goals and write them down, right?
Do you know what? I don't.
How dare you?
No, it's bad. No, I don't. I think it's because it sounds really weird, but I'm still completely overwhelmed. Like, it's been 4 years. I'm still completely overwhelmed that people actually take an interest in my work.
We'll get used to it.
No, I can't. But, you know, 2 years ago, I got the gold medalist world champion of dressage as a client. From there, I did her trainer, the champion of dressage, Carl Hester. I was commissioned to do his 50th birthday present on behalf of one of the biggest equestrian shows in the UK, and present it in front of him and thousands of other people. You know, I've worked with some of the biggest companies who have commissioned the horse feed companies. I run a competition with them every year, and for one of their followers to win a portrait. I've worked with Occlusive Brush Company, and Occlusive do the most phenomenal grooming horse brushes that are owned by, you know, the top grooms. You know, they commissioned me to do one of the top travelling grooms in the UK, his birthday present too. The amount of, like, even being asked to be at the county show because the New Forest and Hampshire County Show is a show that I've adored since I was very, very little, and to be invited to be there was a huge privilege, and I think. I mean, I don't know. I mean, obviously, you kind of think, oh, well, it'd be nice to get a royal commission, maybe, like, because obviously the royal family in the UK is a huge deal. It's what we're made for, apparently what we're known for. And the Queen has corgis, and she has a lot of ponies, so that would be cool. But in all honesty, I think I roll with the punches. I take each day as it comes, because each day gives me a new challenge. It gives me something new to accomplish. I think it would be amazing if I was to set goals, maybe, but I take opportunities as they come, and I kind of go, is this right for me? Yes, it is. I'm going to take it, and just see how far I can push that opportunity, and see how much I can get out of it, and see what doors that opens. I think for me, because so many people told me I couldn't do what I do now, that it was very, very difficult to be like, okay, well, not only am I going to make this a success, but I'm going to make it such a success that I'm going to work with X and Y and Z client. That was never even crossed my mind. So obviously to get to work with the clients that I do work with is phenomenal. And then to sort of to be asked, well, what are your goals? You work with these people, so what do you want now? And I'm like, oh, I really don't know. I should probably know, but in all honesty, I just take each day as it comes and see what opportunities come my way.
That's extraordinary. Yeah, no, I totally, yeah, I can appreciate that mindset, and just because you're just gratefully putting one foot in front of the other, and just capitalizing on the opportunities that you're given. I like that. I like that a lot. Maybe I could use a bit more of a good dose of that with what I'm doing. No, that's really, really cool. I would love to. I really appreciate your time, Bethany. Evening your time. It's early in the morning here in New Zealand. I really have enjoyed this. I would love to just kind of ask a few other questions. I mean, we've gone everywhere in this podcast, and I love this. And this is the whole idea of the podcast: is it's a conversation, it's a back and forth. And I find that whenever my guest brings up something, normally I end up kind of jumping on that and we go down a rabbit hole. But I've loved the deeper dive into social media and the mental health side of things as well. I want to bring it back a little bit, if we can, to the business side of art. And again, kind of how you're making this work as a business. And maybe we can frame this in such a way, because I know you get a lot of people coming to you, in particular, a lot of younger people as well, who come to you and they're like, hey, Bethany, maybe you could give me some business advice. So if you were to offer advice, if you saw somebody that had talent and promise and showed some ability, what kind of, maybe just as general as you like, but what kind of advice would you be able to get out there to people who are wanting to consider becoming a professional artist?
But to be honest, from my personal experience, a lot of people will say to me, did you go to school? Well, obviously I went to school, but did you go to art school? No, I didn't. So how did you get to where you were? Social media. So I think for me, show up every single day, try and produce artwork to some degree every single day, hone your skill, hone your talent, and be patient, be practical about it. Don't expect things to happen overnight, because if they do, incredible for you, but the chances are they won't. So don't set your goals too high, and don't I preach about being sort of grateful for the opportunity. I think I've said fortunate in your podcast about 1,000,000 times, but I genuinely, that's how I feel. And that's coming back to the goal setting. I'm like, well, I don't know. I take each day as it comes, and I'm just so grateful for the opportunity. And I think if someone has talent and they have ambition and they have drive and they know what they want to do, and if art and sort of pencil art or whatever form of art, and you've got a skill, hone it, run with it, see how far you can take it. That's all I think, because that's in all honesty, that's all I'm doing. I haven't got an end goal in mind. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what tomorrow is going to bring, but I know I can get up and I'm going to draw. That's all I know. And it's working. It's a system, and it seems to work every day. Okay, yeah, as I said to you earlier, I kind of try and produce a new piece or have some updated content to put on Instagram every single day, or on Facebook and things like that, which does hold me accountable. I think, if someone can turn around to you and say, I want to be an artist, and and that's what I said, show up, make yourself accountable, and keep drawing. Just keep drawing, no matter what happens. Do not let anyone burst your creative bubble, because if they do, it takes a long time to get it back. I mean, I've, as we know, and I'm sure you have too, had a lot of knocks in the past sort of however many years. But if you can overcome that and think, do you know what? That's one person. The same with the negative comments. One person who thinks that, maybe two at the most. It doesn't matter. There are thousands, millions, billions of people in the world. People, regardless of the work you produce, whether it's realism, whether it's not realism, someone will love what you do. Someone will like you for you. And you've just got to find your audience. And social media is great for that. It takes patience, it takes graft, it takes a huge amount of work to make anything worthwhile. But if you can keep going and keep yourself motivated, just keep yourself, as I said, show up, keep yourself accountable, and just just honing your skill, honing your talent. Whether that's searching for other people on YouTube, or on Instagram and things like that to help inspire you. At the end of the day, there are thousands of people making careers as artists, or not only artists, but like podcasters or creative people, or and if they can do it, then why can't you? At the end of the day, I don't really. So a lot of people say to me, well, you must have had a skill. You must be talented naturally. And I think, well, if you look back at the work that I did when I was like 16, 17, you wouldn't think I was particularly talented. But I've spent 8 years grafting to get to the level of, and I think, do I think it comes naturally? I think you've got to have. I think personally, it's a personality trait. You've got to be prepared to put the hours in. If you're prepared to put the hours in and be patient and willing to make mistakes, for people to be negative, then you will be successful. And I think that is, yeah. I mean, I think that's all you can say about it, really.
I think what's important for people to hear from your story is that there is no substitute for time, and maybe people wouldn't have recognized your capacity early on, but you had enough of that seed of inspiration there in the beginning to just go, you know what, I'm doing this. And you just 1 hour after another hour after another hour, pretty soon it's been years.
But I think as well as time, you kind of almost, as you said, you kind of got to be slightly obsessed. You have to, because without passion, without a love for it, you won't. I mean, so when I was at uni and I was studying marketing, in my second year, they asked me to do a semester on project management, something I had absolutely zero interest in, and therefore, did I do it? No. Did I fail? Pretty much. Could I even get my head around it? No, because my brain isn't wired like that. But if I know that I've set myself a goal, so I'm almost coming back to goals. I wanted to get my work to as realistic as I possibly can to get the top clients. And it's funny actually, because people who know my work, like for some of the top clients that I do work with, they will almost be like, oh, don't use that photo because the horse doesn't look quite right in that photo. And I'm thinking, oh, it's an artistic interpretation. And they're like, well, no, because you'll draw it as close to the photo as I possibly can. If their photo isn't dead on for the horse's composition, they won't let me use it, which is interesting. But yeah, I think if you've got a passion, and if you've got a love, and if you've got sort of commitment, you've just got to be committed to your skill and to your talent. And yeah, time is invaluable, but if you want something bad enough, you'll make it work. And I truly believe that.
Again, I agree with you 100%. This has been a wonderful conversation. I've really enjoyed this.
Me too.
I like asking this question in the Creative Endeavor podcast. It's a silly question, but I'm always surprised by the answers that I get, and I find that they're always very interesting. I'm in two minds about it as to what I'd do, but let me just go ahead and ask you the question. If you had the opportunity to go back and sit down with Bethany as a 10-year-old girl, and you were going to offer some words of wisdom, what would you say?
Oh God. I'd probably start off by saying, don't be so harsh on it. I mean, something my mum always tells me even now, don't be so harsh on yourself. You take things so seriously. I'm such a sensitive person, and knowing, if I knew myself at 10 years old now, knowing what hardship was going to come, just take things with a pinch of salt. Nothing is as bad as what it seems. You will get over, the heartache. You will get over being, having your work criticised. You'll get over losing money. There's ample money in the world. There's ample opportunity. There is ample, you're so fortunate. You've got a support network. Just be patient. I think that's what I keep honing on. And I know I keep saying it, but yeah, just show up, be accountable, put your work out there. Do not be afraid to share your work with other people. and you will find your audience. If you want to be if you want something bad enough, you'll make it work. If you want to be an artist and you are unsure about where to start, just show up, just share your work, whether it's even just on a personal Facebook level, just so you can be like, upload a photo of your work and be like, hey guys, like, I'm just starting out as an artist. I'd love to hear what you think. Please, go easy on me because it is a bit new to me. But I would love to hear what you think. Okay, yes, it does open you up a little bit to criticism, but at the end of the day, you've got to, you have to put your work out there in order to build a portfolio, because you can be an artist who will sit but in a studio behind closed doors for years, and if you don't put your work out there, if you don't show it, whether it's online or to a gallery. Now, I think personally being online is not as harsh as being in a gallery, but that's my personal opinion. I've just had some very horrible experience with publishers, but I think, yeah, if you can do that, then good on you, and just keep doing that basically, and yeah, it will pay off. Hard work always pays off. If you want something hard enough, you'll make it work. If you love it, keep going.
Well, Bethany Vere, this has been a huge pleasure. Thank you so much for being on this episode. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much for having me. I've absolutely loved it. It's brilliant to talk to someone who's like-minded. Absolutely brilliant.
Wonderful. And all the best with your work and your career.
Thank you, and to you.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Creative Endeavor podcast, and a huge thank you to Bethany Vere for joining me. Now, of course, you can find Bethany on Instagram at BethanyVere_art and on her website, www.bethanyvereart.co.uk, and I've put those links in the description down below. Now, if you like this podcast, then click that like button for me. And if you want to come back for more and see more podcasts just like this one or some of my painting tutorials, then make sure you're subscribed to this channel. As always, I can be found on Instagram and Facebook, but most important, make sure you're subscribed through my website at andrewtischler.com. Thank you so much for stopping by, and I'll see you again soon.